So we're gonna be talking about the new Eminem record, "The Death of Slim Shady," Coup de Grâce. It's the 12th studio album by American rapper Eminem. It was released on July 12th, 2024. Eminem has publicly stated that the album is conceptual and has advised fans to listen to the songs in order.
Mhm.
Okay, Eric, your thoughts. Maybe give a bit of a background in terms of like your listening experience, because I think that
Mhm.
informs this listening experience with this record. But maybe we'll start there and then your thoughts on it.
So I was actually told by a uh, fan of the podcast, Ben. He told me he's a huge Eminem fan, and he said, "Listen to this fully. Don't listen to this like broken up," which I did. I listened to this front to cover. I think it got lost on me just because of I know Slim Shady is a character of his,
Yep.
or a pseudonym or pseudonym.
Yeah,
What
yeah,
the
yeah.
hell is this?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's
So
an alter ego
I
essentially.
yeah, an alter ego. And don't get me wrong, I have heard Eminem's music, but I haven't listened to any albums. So I don't know the context of his characters or whatever. But I know Slim Shady is one of them. And obviously this is like a big character of his. Now, um going into so I think the story kind of got lost on me because I don't know too much about the story of this character, but it sounds like from what I've got gathered from this album, Slim Shady is kind of a bit of a cock. So uh, so I mean,
Okay, fair enough.
like a
Fair enough.
shit disturber,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
So I will have to say I thought this album was really well produced. I thought it sounded good. However, I thought that I know I'm going to get ripped apart on this, and because there's a lot of Eminem fans out there. But again, I can't give any context. But uh, that famous song that he has, I don't know the name of it, but it's like
There's a lot.
I know. Oh
There's a
shit! I
lot. You're
got
gonna
to
have to
do
give
my
me more
research
bit
here.
more description. Here, you can look it up.
Uh,
Welcome in Raiders, Chasing Dragonflies. Thanks for the raid. Scorpion Tesno, J Bear, M&M's, the candy, chocolate slash candy. They're
mhm.
okay. They're very mid, I would say. Eric, you're gonna
It's
have
the one it's the one that, like, he's, like, most famous for
Hi,
that,
my
like,
name
people
is.
love to sing.
Oh,
No,
lose yourself.
uh, that's it.
Okay, lose yourself. Okay,
Lose
that's the
Yourself.
Grammy one.
So,
Okay.
like, and that's what I'm trying to get at here. So that take a song like Lose Yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's, like, very, like, it pumps you up, right?
Right.
And then even with his, like, the way he, like, I guess, spans off his lyrics, he's very good at writing lyrics together
Right.
in that context, and he's very good at saying them fast. However, I don't think that listening to that throughout this entire album really, like, it kind of just like, okay, like this is a lot of just words, like it's like he's just like blah! Like it's like he hasn't talking like spoken to anybody in years, and then he's just like, oh my god, hi guys, like let me tell you the story, right? And so it's just, yeah, I felt like it was too much listening to it in one go. uh but I did understand the context of the story. He does take a lot of digs at like stuff that's going on in the world right now, which I thought
Right.
was very hilarious. And I even love the song. I think it was in Habits, where he said, "Oh, would you rather Cartman say this, and
Right.
then you'll
Right.
find it funny." Or
Right.
whatever. And I thought that was hilarious too, because it's like all these people say these things, but then it shows up on pop culture
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's okay,
And it's
right?
okay.
So
Yeah.
it's like,
It's a
yes.
hypocritical. Yeah. 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 How we.
So I really like how he had that cheeky backhand to what's going on in the world today.
Mm-hmm.
I did like Eminem's solo stuff on the album when he wasn't collaborating with people, other than Habits and the last song with Jelly Roll. I thought that was really good.
Oh, you didn't like the features for the most part.
Features, yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. For the most part, I didn't like that. If I had to choose my favorite song, actually, okay, disregard that because the Lucifer had an extra on there, and I thought that
Hmm.
was I love that song. I thought that song was really cool. Uh, that was my favorite song on this one.
Mm. Interesting. Okay, okay. Okay, so I do agree with you in terms of like it's just like word diarrhea. It's just like a blast. It's like when I was listening to it, I was like, "Oh, this is like a Dragon Force album." Like it is the equivalent of a Dragon Force album where it's just a lot of words, a lot of wordplay. It's very impressive. It's extremely impressive, just like a Dragon Force album. But at the end of the day, it's like this might be too much. This actually might be too much. Um, but
Mhm.
then I I feel like at this point in Eminem's career, it's not about being popular or being successful. It's literally just a record where he's just talking about the stuff that he wants to talk about, which which is good and bad. Uh
Mhm.
like the concept of the album is interesting because he's going back to his old persona of Slim Shady, where I think this guy is like the king of controversy, right? Like when he first
Mhm.
came onto the scene, the whole news cycle was about like, ooh, did you hear what Eminem said about his mom, or did you hear what Eminem said about like Britney Spears and the Backstreet Boys, and like it
Mhm.
was just layer upon layer of just being like the most controversial or the most outrageous or the most offensive, right? And then he sort of like relatively cleaned that up later down in his career. But then now this is going back to that and just like addressing like, oh, back then I was like super edgy and super controversial. That's not me today. Like, how could you say those things? And just like it's a back and forth conversation with himself about like, trying to rectify that, but also like maybe I was right saying in those things back then.
Mhm.
That was sort of what I got from the record, and it is
Uh,
an interesting concept. But
it is, and I thought it was like you said, like he's having this like battle with himself. I think it was in the Antichrist. He says something on the lines that uh, shoot, I just lost my point that I was just saying.
like in the song "Guilty Conscience" too, right? Like that is
Mhm.
a follow up to the first "Guilty Conscience" with Dr. Dre and himself. Which is about like three separate short stories in that original song. This one is sort of another back and forth song where he's like Slim Shady versus Eminem or Marshall Mathers. Um, but it's
I
just go ahead.
I got my point
Yeah,
back. So he's talking about how like he's having this battle with himself. But what I like about that song, he says something in the lines of that it's almost kind of good that we have controversial things because it kind of keeps everybody in check a little bit, right? Like
right,
nobody kind of takes the cake and just like runs with it, and then it's just like we're in this like the pendulum swinging like far left or far right,
right.
right? It's like it should be in the middle, and I think yeah, yeah, this person could be like a bit of a shit disturber, but it's almost like we need those people in a sense because it
Mm,
kind of keeps everybody level headed,
right,
if
right,
you
right.
kind of know what I mean.
Yeah, which is sort of the weird thing about this record because you can't really tell if he believes in the things that he's saying half the time. And
Mm,
I'm pretty sure he himself doesn't like believe half the things he's saying most of the time on this record, right? Like
mm,
he's saying some really, really triggering and offensive stuff, but a lot of it is in the voice of Slim Shady. And then later on in the record, he'll be like, "Oh, how did you? How can you say that? That is completely like off the rails." Like the Christopher Reeve stuff, right?
oh yeah, that was that was
Right, like
fun.
that's a
Yeah.
like back in the day
Oh.
on his first at the beginning of his like first few records, he made a Christopher Reeves diss and it was like super controversial, and he brings it back here, makes another diss, and then later on the record he's like talking to himself saying like, how can you make fun of a paraplegic? Like that is just fucked up.
Mhm.
Right,
And that's that backhanding kind of like you don't like I don't know whether or not it's like, oh, he's apologizing for it and he's saying, yeah, this is wrong, or if he's cheekingly saying this stuff and he actually doesn't give a shit,
right, like Chasing
really, right?
Dragonfly says, like he's trying to appeal to the bigots and the woke people. Like I'm not sure if he's like,
Mhm.
for me it doesn't seem like he's trying to appeal to anyone. it seems just more like an inner dialogue with himself, like trying to figure out like, should I say this? Is this what I believe? Like, to be honest, I don't think this record is really meant for anyone. It's for himself. That's what I
Mhm.
feel like from an artistic standpoint. He's writing this record to sort of like get his thoughts and feelings out and fuck what other people think.
Mhm.
Like, because like there's no, I wouldn't say there's like a hit song on this record outside of maybe Houdini. Houdini is probably like the catchiest one
Mhm.
to really hook you in, and maybe Toby, I would say. But like all these songs are not club hits, and not that Eminem's ever been known to be like, you know, a dance artist, but it's just a lot of wordplay, and he's like trying to have an inner dialogue about like where he stands on specific issues. Um,
Mhm.
but I could see where people would consider this to be like, you're appealing to the bigots, but you're also appealing to the woke people. But I don't know. From listening to this, it just feels more just like an inner dialogue, and fuck whatever anyone else says about his stuff.
Mhm. What did you think of the, because again, his lyrics, like you said, they're very impressive.
Yeah,
Like he's able to jumble the story together and it's just so flawlessly said. And I think there was one part where it was almost like, that was a good analogy, the Dragon Force, like Tomi Iommi, like like there was that where he actually even sped up even more. And it was like, I think they did a speed up on the track, it sounded like.
I
But I
I,
was like,
I would
holy,
bet you there isn't though.
yeah, and I was thinking that too. I
I
was
bet you
like,
there isn't.
there's a good chance that it's not. But I was kind of underwhelmed by the just the music backing these songs,
Yep.
right? Because like I'm gonna use "Lose Yourself" as an example because I know that song the best. Um, that whole song got you like pumped up.
Hmm.
Like it's just like right up here, and I didn't feel like there was anything that was really here in this album that kind of had that same effect.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. Like, and I don't know. This has always been sort of the criticism of Eminem's catalog is like the beats behind the lyrics are always subpar relative
Mhm.
to his delivery and the lyrics. And it sort of carries on this record too. It's like there isn't really that many impressive or catchy hooks or melodies or rhythms or anything on this record. You're here really just for his delivery and the lyrics, much like a Dragon Force album where you're just there for the freaking guitar solos and nothing else. Um, but it's sort of funny because when I was listening to this, the first track, Renaissance, where he's talking about like all the critics and how they nitpick on like artists and say like, oh, there's no hits on this record, it's not as good as this record. You guys are so nerdy that you find problems with 36 Chambers, the Wu-Tang album. And I was like, oh, that's me and Eric. He's talking about me and Eric on this song. He's talking, this is what we do. We just talk shit about records all day. So I found that funny when listening to that. I was like, oh, he's definitely talking about us
Oh,
there.
please definitely listen to the Crossroads Music Podcast.
But I don't know. There's so much crap on this record where he's just saying the most outlandish things. There's like there's a whole song about fat shaming on it. And I'm just like,
I thought that song was funny.
it's funny,
I
but at the same
I was
time,
laughing.
I was just like, I can't believe it. I can't believe you dedicated a whole song to this. It's insane.
uh, I felt like this album should have been cut down. It shouldn't have been 20 songs. That
Mm,
was another thing too,
right.
because again, I think I was just over just like, okay, this is a lot of verbal jargon. And I'm just like, and for somebody who hasn't listened to Eminem like albums in full before, and people have been telling me listen to it in full, listen to it front and back, it was very hard for me to concentrate because I was just like, oh man, like is this a new song or is this an old one?
Right. Yeah,
So
there's definitely some songs on here. Like even Renaissance to Habits, like the first track to the
mhm,
second track, I was like, this is one song, but it's actually two songs. I was like,
mhm,
it threw me for a loop because a lot of it bled together. in terms of their
Mhm.
transitions. And then Trouble, the third track, was 42 seconds. I was like, what happened here? Did like they did they screw up the upload? And it's like it ends so abruptly. Um and then the fourth track, Brand New Dance, I was like, oh my god, this is like a song from 2004. Why is this on this record? Like, it's so like weird to be on this record. There's a lot of it's a weird record. I like the concept where he's having this sort of, you know, inner dialogue and conflict with himself about like what is acceptable and what is not to say and believe, I guess. But
Mhm.
I do agree with you. The record should have been cut down. And then it's a consistent criticism of Eminem's music. It's just like the instrumental part is just like it's
Yeah.
secondary. It's always secondary to whatever he's saying because that is the highlight
Mhm.
of his art. Um,
Mhm.
I don't know. Oh, back to your features thing. I'm surprised you didn't like a lot of the features. I thought they because Eminem is just like throwing words at you. It was nice to have features on the record because I was like, oh, finally, there's some breathing room. I don't have to pay attention to every single word.
Well, that's what I kind of like. I guess you're right. I would say for the most part, there was only a few of them that I actually like because I think it was in Lucifer. He had almost like this R&B kind of hook
Right? Yeah.
at the bridge that was really cool, and I kind of like it. It really fit with what he was singing
Mm-hmm.
and how he was singing. And then the same thing happened in the last one, "Somebody Save Me" with Jelly
Jelly roll.
Roll.
Yeah.
But like I did not like Toby. I thought that was way too like with Big Sean and Baby Tron, who like and I gotta say like maybe
Okay.
that's the old hip hop. Maybe I am getting old. Our friend from the Grown Up Gaming podcast always laughs about how old I am with my critics, but like the stage names back in hip hop back in the day
this
were
is where
way
this
better.
is where you're going.
We're way better. We're way better than what we have now. Way better.
So
I'm sorry. I'm
you have
saying it. Baby Tron.
you have issue with Baby Tron.
I don't have an issue with him. I just didn't dig the song. I thought that was like I heard Eminem and now I'm hearing Baby Tron just like blurt out lyrics as well. Um so yeah, I don't know.
I personally really like Toby. It's one of my favorite songs on this record, but it's because it is. And going back to that Dragon Force example, it is literal just lyrical like mastery, right? It's all about just delivery and how fast you could spit those words. That's the
I would
impressive part of the
love
song.
to see Tell Me Iommi and Eminem do a collaboration of a song.
Maybe, I feel like they have. No, like yeah, maybe Herman Lee, and
Yeah, Herman Lee.
yeah,
That's it.
Herman
Yeah.
Lee and Eminem. Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
actually hilarious. Um, I still don't have an opinion. I still don't have like a concrete thought on this one. But Eric, your final thoughts and ratings while I think about what I'm gonna give this record.
I don't think I'm gonna listen to this song again, or sorry, this album again. I don't think I'm gonna
Oh,
listen to this album again.
okay.
Uh, I thought it was okay. I think that there's better albums that he's obviously done, just from what I've heard people talk about. So
For sure.
I felt exhausted after I listened to this. To be honest, I did. I
You know,
did. I felt a little
if
exhausted.
he ever listens to this podcast and like a miracle happens and he listens to this, you are going to be featured on his next
Hey,
diss track. You're gonna
I think
be
that's awesome.
shouted out. He's
And
gonna
you know what?
shout you out.
I would shake his hand. I would say, "Hey, like I get it. I completely get
He's
it.
gonna be so
I'm
angry,
glad I gave
so
you
angry,
content."
so angry.
No, but like I think I would tell him to his face. I think I would say this to his face
That you didn't
because
like it.
yeah, sometimes I can be like Larry David from Curb Your Enthusiasm and just tell you my own opinion. But I'm gonna give this album a like. I appreciate just how he's able to just put those lyrics together, and I think I'm giving it a higher rating than what I actually want to give it. But it's a
Hmm.
6 out of 10.
6 out of 10, but enjoyment was lower.
Enjoyment was lower, but
Ah.
I do appreciate because I'm like that's impressive. It is impressive what he's able to like, and I can vividly picture this conversation between him and his alter ego.
Yes. Yeah, the painting of the picture or the scenario or the setting is
Mhm.
just like perfect. Like every single time. It's just so good. Uh Jason Dragonfly says Jack has been listening to this album on repeat and he's been extra tired lately.
There you go. It's what it is.
um this one's tough because I think from an artistic standpoint, I really appreciate what he's done on this record because he's just putting it out like all on the line, right? Like I know there's skits in here where it's like Eminem's trying to cancel himself by releasing this record. He's very self-aware of what he's saying and how offensive
Mhm.
people are going to find it, but he says it anyways. I don't know if that is for clout or that's just because, these are the things that he's thinking at the moment and he just needs to get it out and process it and, you know, let the chips fall where they fall. So like I really appreciate that from an artistic standpoint where he just has the freedom to say whatever the fuck he wants. He's at that
Mhm.
level where he doesn't need to answer to anyone. He's made enough money, he's sold enough records. If he gets canceled tomorrow, he doesn't give a shit cuz he's already done everything. So he's at that point where he could do whatever he wants. But it's also not to the point where it's like a Ted Nugent or a Kid Rock, where they're not self aware of what they're saying. They're saying the most idiotic things in the world and they think they're right. Whereas this
Mhm.
record, it actually addresses, like, I might be wrong in saying this, but I'm going to say it anyways, right? Like,
Mhm.
it's very self aware. If that's for clout, it's for clout, but I think it's more of an inner dialogue. That's how I feel about this record. So I really appreciate
Mhm.
that. And from that perspective, I would actually give it a 10. But my my
Ooh.
enjoyment of listening to this record, I agree with you. I was tired listening to this at the end. I was like, I'm not really enjoying the experience of like listening to this record.
Mhm.
So it like goes like my enjoyment of actually listening to this was more like a 4 or 5 because it's just like there's so much going on this thing that I don't know. So would I recommend this record to anyone trying to get into Eminem? Probably not.
Mhm.
You probably want to go with like the Eminem Show, which is like the classic one from front to back. I probably end up giving this thing like a 7 out of 10. I think that's where I'm gonna sit. 7 out of 10 because I think there are just from an artistic standpoint, it's like a really free record. It's great to see him be able to say what he wants to say, but also self-aware of like what it actually means and the impact that's going to have on society as a whole. But at the same time, I don't know if the songs are there. Like
Mhm.
from a songwriting perspective, it's iffy. So I'm gonna give
Mhm.
it a 7. I'm gonna stick with that. I've decided at this right this moment. I've decided it's a 7 out of 10.
Right on.
We'll see at the end of the year if my opinion changes on that, but I'll give it a 7.
Mhm.
Okay, Eric. Any other thoughts on this record? Because there was a lot to unpack on this one before we close this off
I
until
think
you're ready.
that's it, man.
Okay.
I think that's it.
Okay. All right. Perfect. So that was our discussion on the death of Slim Shady, Coup de Grâce by Eminem. For those of you following along with us every single week, the album that we are going to be discussing is I didn't know they were still making records. The brand new Deep Purple album, Equal One. That's a terrible album cover, by the way.
It is a that is actually the
I
worst album
I
cover ever.
really hate this album cover.
I feel like they wrote it on a napkin and then their manager mistaken it. Oh, this is the album cover? That's weird.
Like, I wonder how much the artist got paid to do this.
Oh yeah. There's
Whoever
probably
that.
some like, yes, this was in the art exhibit and I will sell it for $1 million.
Anyways, the brand new Deep Purple record, Equal One. I hope it's good. Jury's out on that because they are super old. I actually don't even know who's in the band anymore because like half of them are dead at this point, the original members. So
Yeah, that's true.
we'll see. We'll see how this record goes.
Let's
But
see if they still got it.
yeah,
Let's see if they still got
yeah,
that progressive feel to them.
yep. Anyways, that's the record for next week. Equal One by Deep Purple. Thanks everyone for tuning in to the Crossroads Music Podcast. We're here live at twitch.tv/the Crossroads Music Podcast every Monday at 10 p.m. ET, 7 p.m. PT. Catch us on Spotify, Apple Music, all the places. When the Eminem album review goes up on YouTube, feel free to comment and tell us why we're wrong.
Yeah. You're gonna come after me hard, I feel. So that's fair. That's completely fair. And I'm willing to listen to your opinion.
Anyways, that's the podcast for this week. Chasing Dragonflies. Thanks for the raid again. And we'll catch you all next time.